Hello and welcome everyone to TBH Beyond Borders. It's a podcast where I talk to inspiring international students, and on the topic of inspiring, I'm here with Stacey from Singapore, who again is the epitome of the word inspire. Hi Stacey, thanks so much for being here.
Hi, thanks so much for having me.
So to start off, I say you're from Singapore, but you've actually can associate yourself with three countries, right? Because you were born in Singapore, you've studied in Indonesia, you've lived in China, and now you're in Australia.
Yeah.
So how did that happen? Because that's really cool.
So I was born in Singapore.
Yeah.
Thing is that I grew up overseas, so I've lived in Indonesia for about 7 to 8 years. That
Wow,
was like
yeah.
in my formative years.
Okay, yeah.
But before I went to Indonesia, I was in China. I lived there for about 2 years. I remember 2 to 3 years. That was when I was really small.
Yeah.
And then afterwards I went to Indonesia. So I studied in a Singapore international school
Yeah.
back then. So I had the opportunity to be able to talk to people of different cultures at a pretty young age as well.
Yeah.
So there are people from like America, from Japan, and of course like Indonesians themselves.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think it was a really interesting experience. That was probably the best years of my life when I
Yeah.
was young. So yeah, that's how it happened. And after I lived in Indonesia, and that was probably around primary school, like primary 5 or so, then I went back to Singapore to finish up my primary school leaving examinations. You have exams at a very young age in Singapore. Yeah, and afterwards I finished up my like secondary school education, tertiary education, like junior college, and then here I am for university. So yeah.
So amongst those countries, granted that you've spent the most time in like Singapore and Indonesia, which country do you think has like impacted you the most? Because I would guess that because when I came here to Australia, I can see, and maybe it's too soon for me to say, but I can see like an impact that the country itself has, or the city itself has had on me. So what country do you think has really like impacted you and your life the most?
Oh, I think it has to be Indonesia.
Because it's like the like when you were like after like it's like your like
Yeah.
peak growth years, right? Like when we
Yeah.
really like to try to understand the world.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's like at that young age is where you sort of like your personality starts forming from there, right?
right.
And then your thinking and everything. So that's like in your formative years. So I think when I went back to Singapore, I already had this personality like fixed because of like Indonesia, like
Yeah.
having grown up there. So
Yeah.
it was like I learned a lot of things back in Indonesia. I remember the people there are very nice. The food is great. It's amazing.
Yeah.
You should go to Indonesia one day.
No, definitely. And I had the chance of eating, the opportunity of eating Indonesian food. Because someone else who has been on the podcast and someone who both of us know, Sekar.
Sekar's birthday, was it?
Yes, so she had made Indonesian food.
Yes.
And I remember telling her that this one dish that she made, whose name I forgot, and I'm sorry.
Oh.
But it was very reminiscent of like this other drugged up patties thing that we have in India. So like there's a lot of like overlap between Indonesian and Indian food. And so I objectively love Indonesian food.
It is so good, isn't it? Yeah, I love it. I missed it so much. Yeah. So
But also with the food, and also the other thing would be, I would guess, is languages.
so I guess in an international school they teach you English. Then because it's a Singaporean type of school, they teach you Chinese as well.
Yeah.
And Indonesian, I don't remember it being a specific language being taught because I don't remember studying it as much. Yeah, so it was more of like a conversational thing. So I had lots of like friends who were from like Indonesia, so they would speak and I would just like listen. I am actually not very good Indonesian having lived there though. So so it's just very basic words that I know here and there.
Just because of like living in being part of like conversations.
Yeah, that's right. So it's just me listening and hearing bits and pieces and just it's just a very common language when you go out and you buy stuff and you hear your parents speak it too. Yeah, because my dad, we moved to Indonesia because of my dad's job, so he had to learn the language as well.
Yes.
And my mom too, so I just sort of like heard from them and just whacked on my own here and there. So
what language do you feel most comfortable in?
Most comfortable in English, definitely.
English,
I would say I've grown up speaking English for most of my life.
Do you know it's so weird that because like even back home I use / learned like a few languages because like India has a lot of different languages based on state, where you are, what religion sometimes. So there were 4 prominent languages in my life. And recently I was just thinking about this, that I wasn't able to figure out the language that I'm most comfortable in because like I'm fluent in maybe 2 or 3 of them.
Wow.
It's a very normal thing in India. It's
No, but
not,
it's still a big deal, but okay, yeah.
and I just started thinking that the language that we think in is, I think, supposed to be the language that you're most comfortable in.
Oh, that's true. That's what a lot of people say,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Yeah. That's
Because
true.
I couldn't figure out, because they were like, my mother tongue and English are both languages that I used a lot at one point. And I just couldn't figure out, like, what is the language that, it just really, like, baffled me. And I was like, wait, what am I thinking?
Oh,
Yeah.
that's true.
So it's really nice that you have had, like, different languages, because also I would guess that where you live and the country and the culture that you're surrounded with also impacts, like, in a sense, your identity.
Yeah,
Um,
definitely.
because I think, like, because I've lived in India, that's obviously a part of my identity now. So do you find it, is it something that you have trouble navigating? Like, do you have trouble, like, figuring out, like, what identity you associate with and what you feel most close
Oh,
to?
yes. I think you just pretty much hit the nail on the head. Yes. Till this day, I still find it hard to identify myself, like my nationality, maybe in a sense, or
yeah.
like where I truly belong. Because though I'm Singaporean, I was born in Singapore, but
Yeah.
I wasn't actually raised all the way in Singapore.
Right.
I'm not a true blue Singaporean kind
Right.
of thing. So, but I'm not technically Indonesian either. But I just grew up in that culture, and I was surrounded by people from that country, and of course, like people from different countries too, like America, like friends from Canada, Dutch, and all that too. So it was very diverse.
Yeah.
And in China, it's a very different environment as well. It's just everybody speaks Chinese there, so you don't really hear a lick of English at all. So yeah, it's a very different thing. So I can't identify myself, so I just call myself a third culture kid. It's a blessing and a curse to not be able to belong to one specific culture.
Yeah.
I think people call themselves global citizens as well. So yeah.
Obviously, there's, like, pros and cons, like you said, but
Yeah.
I think one of the pros would have been that when you came to Australia, a lot of international students, when they come to Australia, they're coming from a place that is homogeneous in its
Yes.
population.
Yes,
Like,
very
it's
true.
just one
Yeah.
country or one culture.
Yeah.
And then they come to a place where there's, especially in uni, there's people from different cultures with different backgrounds, and I think that is something that's, like, a changed for them. But for you, that transition would have been really smooth because you went from studying in an international school with the same kind of demography
Yeah.
to another university with the same kind of
Yeah.
demography.
That's very true.
So
That's
was it
very
like
true.
when you came here, did you feel really, like, comfortable in the sense that it was like you didn't get, like, a shock in a sense?
Oh, I think for every international student, when they go to a different culture, they'll experience a little bit of a shock at the beginning. So
Right,
I wasn't really immune to it at first.
Right.
So I think back in 2015, like I've been here for 4 years.
Yeah.
So I came in 2015, and I remember, because like Australians have this specific accent, right? That's what
Right,
everybody
right.
says. It's a very unique accent.
Right.
And they are also, the way the syntax, the sentences, like how are you doing, how are you going, like
Yeah.
hi, how are you, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
I wasn't used to it because I was in Singapore for a bit, and
Right.
they don't really ask you how you're doing. Like cashiers in supermarkets will be like, hi, how you doing? And then, like, beat your stuff. Like, yeah, they just, okay, like they swipe everything and they're like, okay, $10. Like, yeah, all right.
Yeah.
So it's not a very common thing. So I was a little bit surprised, like in a good way. It was just, oh, a stranger is asking me how I'm doing. Like, oh, I'm doing good, thanks. Then do I continue the conversation from there? Like, what happens?
It's funny you mentioned this because that's
Yeah.
something I was thinking about a week back. Because we do, so India, we learn English, Singapore, people learn English,
Yes.
Australia uses English,
Yeah.
but still there are these differences with the phrases and how, like, social conventions work.
Yeah.
And it's really strange because I got that a lot, like, when I was, like, because I don't recollect saying, we say, like, hi, we say hello, okay,
Yeah.
but we never go, like, hey, how's it going? Like, that's not, like, the first, unless, like, I'm actually literally asking you, hey, how is it going for a
Yeah.
specific thing?
Yeah.
So it was really weird when, like you said, when you went, like, hey, how's
Yeah.
it going? Or how you doing?
Yeah.
I was like, wow, like, that this person's really caring. Thank
Yeah.
you. But then everyone did that. I'm like, okay, like, at one point I was like, am I not doing okay? Like, are people, like, concerned
Yeah.
about me?
Yeah. Then you just realize it's like a formality
It's,
thing.
yeah.
Like,
It's a very ingrained, like, it's a very subconscious thing, I would guess.
yeah.
Did you also go through, like, at first when people went, like, how's it going? I
Yeah.
said, yeah, it's going good. And then I would stop. I would never follow up with
Same. I was like that as well.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, I'm going good, so am I supposed to ask back? But, I didn't think so much.
Yeah.
I just wanted to get my stuff and just
Yeah,
move.
yeah. And then I noticed that, hold on, I realized that for 2 months, people kept asking me how it's going for me, and I just said good, and then I never followed up.
Yeah.
And then, like, in hindsight, I was like, hold on, I think that's a bit rude.
Yeah,
So
that's
now I'll
true.
start asking.
Yeah, same. Now that like people ask you, you sort of ask back as well. Like, oh, I'm good. How are you?
Yeah.
That kind of thing.
But it's so strange that it's such a simple thing, right? Like,
yes,
it's definitely a change from our countries, but it's like a small change. But still, it's such a ingrained thing that it did baffle me. The phrases that they use, and like it's really polite. Like it's very polite here.
Yeah, it is.
I don't necessarily mean that people back home are rude, but like it's just that it's ingrained into like conventions.
But it's true. It's like when people ask you like how you're doing and stuff, it gives you that feeling that they're caring about your welfare and everything.
That's true.
Yeah, so it's a very positive thing. So
yeah,
like,
it's a formality, but it's still like a good formality.
Yes, it is. Yeah, agreed. Yeah.
It's really nice that you have had so much different exposure to different cultures.
Yeah.
Because I think that's really important. I think like it really broadens your perceptions. It really broadens like your take on things. You become more open because you're exposed to more ideologies and different perceptions.
That's very true.
So I also want to go back to Singapore.
Yeah.
I think it's really interesting the relationship between India and Singapore, specifically because so Singapore it used to be a port for the British East India Company.
Okay.
So then we got our independence, then y'all got your independence.
Yes.
But the name Singapore, it is actually Singapura, which is like a Malay term, which is also interesting because so basically, so Singapura used to be the Malay name for Singapore, but they Englishized it to Singapore.
Yeah.
But before Singapore, it used to be Singapore, which basically means, which is from Sanskrit, which is really interesting, which is lion's town.
Yes.
And it's crazy because so essentially when the Britishers came to India, we have a lot of cities because it's Sanskrit. It's like prominently used in India. We have a lot of cities where the names are like something poor. So one of the cities that we have in the state that I live in is Nagpur, which basically means the city or the town of the snake. The same way Singapore was the town of the lion. And when the Britishers came here, they changed it to Nagpur, the same way Singapore became Singapore.
Oh.
And I was really fascinated by how like etymology works.
Wow. That's so interesting. Like I didn't catch that part. Like, oh.
Yeah.
Wow.
So yeah, it's like I really like whenever I like read about countries, I really like the etymology part of it, like how it was named, because that itself will tell you the cultural like impact. Like because the earlier name was Sanskrit because of the kingdom that used to be there that had Sanskrit roots, and then the other name was a Malay name because of the influence that Malaysia had on Singapore.
Yes.
So it's really, and then it became like an English name because of colonialism and everything. Yeah.
Singapore is it's a very multicultural country, very multiculturally influenced. So I like to call it Rojak kind of country.
Because even there are like populations from all over Asia that has like 9 to 10% of Indians. It has a prominent Chinese population, which is why I don't think it would have been kind of easier to go from Singapore to China and Indonesia than from any other country to China and Indonesia.
Oh, that's a good point. Yeah.
Just because you were kind of like you were kind of, it was something that was already familiar to you in Singapore at a lower level, and then I think it would have been easy to go to another culture if you've already like been exposed to that culture.
That's a good point. I guess it's like that transition is easier once you've been exposed to different cultures like before already. You've had that experience. So I do agree that process will be quicker than someone who hasn't really had much contact with such cultures before. Yeah.
A lot of Indians might not know, but Tamil is actually one of the official languages of Singapore.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, which is...
You're so smart. Yeah.
No, that really like, it was something that kind of pleasantly surprised me. I was like, we Indians we know that Singapore and India are close.
Yeah.
But that's something that we might not know. So I just thought like I'll mention if Indians are listening that
Yeah, that is true.
And like I mentioned, it was Singapore because the lion town, and that's why also one of the symbols that we associate and Singapore also associates itself with is the Merlion. Am I saying that correctly?
Yes, yeah, perfect.
Because that's
Merlion.
like the symbol that if I see that symbol anywhere,
Yes.
like that's Singapore. Like
Yeah.
that's such a strong image of like Singapore.
Yeah,
I think that's really nice.
I guess it's that logo that we have. Like when you just Google Singapore, you'll see the Merlion, like spitting water out. Yeah.
And it's also like architecturally very cool. Like, it's like a lion and a fish. That's really cool.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
I'm glad you find it interesting.
And you'll also have Little India, which is...
yes!
At this point, I'm just, like, the last 2 minutes have just been me fascinated over, like the Indian extent in Singapore, because I wasn't aware that it was this prominent, which is nice.
Food there is really good, by the way. Check it out next time. Yeah.
Because I keep going to Changi Airport. Again, Changi, come on. That's like the best airport, man.
Oh,
it's
thank
so cool.
you.
Yeah.
It's just pretty clean, yeah.
Yeah, I'm like, I think I've, in this podcast, it's basically me being like a fanboy of Singapore. Because I am. I really
thank you so
like
much.
it. Yeah.
No, I'm glad to hear that.
Moving on from Singapore to Australia, which is your journey right now.
Yeah.
So you mentioned that you came here in 2015 and you've been at UQ. You recently graduated.
Yes.
Was it 2-3 weeks ago?
Oh, yes, it was.
Yeah.
It's just in December. Yeah, on the 11th or something. Yeah, around there. So yeah, it's been a long 4 years, I feel. Yeah, so I graduated from a Bachelor of Communications in Honours, and what you do is like Honours is an additional like year of research and you write a thesis. So I feel like out of the past 4 years, has been my most challenging year. Like this
because
year.
of the thesis and the research?
Yes, because you have to write 15,000 plus words in 9 months.
So how many pages was that? 80, 90?
I think it was, including references, I had about like 90 plus pages.
Wow.
Yeah, it was like a mini book. You had to like print it out for your markers as well.
Because I have to make I have to write like a 100-page-ish report in June.
You know how I feel, yeah. In June?
This
like
coming
in one
June.
semester?
Yeah. No, I mean, I already finished one semester.
Oh, okay.
It's like a 1 year thing. Like you said,
year.
like 9 months thing, yeah.
Okay.
And I'm dreading it. But what was because another thing that I want to talk to people about, obviously there's like, I love talking to international students, but the other idea that I wanted to explore was I want to talk to PhD students and research students about their thesis. Like I get really excited about people's thesis and people's research. So what is your thesis?
What was my thesis about? So it was about the culture and communication adaptation strategies of Chinese international students studying in Australia.
Wow. It's so relevant though. Like it's such a...
Yeah.
Wow.
No,
so like,
what
were the findings of the study?
Findings was that, so I had to interview Chinese international students from UQ, QUT and Griffith, so I just focus in Brisbane particularly. And it's always back to, I realized like language was a big problem, the language barriers, definitely an issue. And the cultural differences, it's always back to these two. These were the main problems. It's like I interviewed about 15 people and like pretty much like the majority all agree, it's always language, it's the culture. I can't communicate with the local Australians here, it's really hard.
Especially when you come from countries that have like already an established population in the university. It's actually harder to get out of your comfort zone because there's so many people that a rough oversimplified example would be that if I came from a country that I didn't find a lot of people from that country here, I would have no other option than or I would be more motivated to go out of my comfort zone and talk to other people. But if I come, say I'm from India, so when I come from India and there's already a fair enough of Indian population here, it might be harder for me to get out of my comfort zone given that I can just hang around with the same group of people where language isn't an issue. So I do feel, because that's also something that I've spoken on the podcast before, that it is harder to come from countries where English isn't like a prominent language. Just because it does get, not even academically, but also socially, it is a hindrance that is kind of tough.
It is very true, As I guess like the people that I interviewed, they were like Chinese students, so... I chose this group mainly because it's a very big population here in Australia.
Right, exactly,
Yeah, most of them come from China, international students, So, they mostly said because English isn't their first language, then they mostly stick to people from their own culture because it's more comfortable, it's easier for them. So exactly what you said.
It's really nice. I would love to read those thesis. I'm a huge nerd for
I'll email
research.
it to you.
Because like recently, Sekar, who we've already mentioned, she's writing her thesis about Coachella.
Oh.
And I was like, that's crazy.
Coachella?
Yeah, I was like, that's so interesting. Like, you
wow.
writing a thesis about Coachella? Like, I have to
Whoa.
write thesis about really specific niche scientific molecules. I wish I could write about Coachella.
Oh, no, everybody has different fields they're good at.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so definitely, because I don't know, like, even if it's a research from a field that I'm not in, I might have, like, trouble getting the terminology and understanding, like, the semantics sometimes.
Yeah.
But I can still grasp what the research focused on and what it showed. And this is, again, something that is so relevant. Like, it's so... That's a really impressive thesis topic also,
Oh,
I have to say, yeah.
Thank you. It's just like you get to choose your own thesis topic.
Yeah.
Yeah, so like I remember my supervisor was like, so what do you want to do? And I was like, there's so many options, so it's hard for me to choose. Communications is really broad, so you can do whatever you want to. Yeah, I remember my friends, like I'm doing intercultural communication more, like it was more focused on that, my thesis.
Which is such an apt thing because you're made for that.
I don't know. Thank you so much. I just thought, like, what am I sort of like into? What am I good at? Because you should definitely write something you're interested in for 9 months.
Exactly. If you're spending, because at the end of the thesis, and this is like a universal fact, no matter what you do your research in, and no matter what field you're in, and no matter how interested you are in it, you are gonna hate writing a thesis. It's true.
It's true.
So you might as well hate writing something that you are passionate about.
Yeah, that's so true. Yeah, exactly. So I've got my friends who are doing like film, TV. Some of them were doing social media. Some of them were doing something about Netflix as well.
Wow,
Yeah, so everybody's doing different things. And I guess for me, I just thought, what would I really like to do as something that was like maybe one of my strengths or something that I could be specialized in or known for in the future, possibly. So just thought intercultural communication, and like there's so many international students here in Australia. So I really want to be able to like understand them better, give them a voice, hear what they have to say, and compile it into research or something. I think it'll be helpful for future reference.
Because even like now, this is obviously I'm speculating, but when you based on your thesis now, tomorrow if universities were like supposed to, if they ever take like an academic consensus to make policies about their strategies relating to students from countries where English isn't a prominent language, your thesis might actually be something that influences or tells them something that they need to know. Right?
I hope so too.
I mean, it's such a cool thing. Yeah.
Thank you. I hope so. It's really important because I mean, Australia relies so much on international students. They really do contribute to a lot of revenue here as well. Yeah,
definitely.
And international students, you know, we pay a lot of money, definitely, to come here to study. So it's kind of important to be able to cater to their needs as well. Like, I want
they should have a good experience as well.
Exactly. They need to have a good experience, like academically and of course socially as well. Like, it's a whole holistic experience. I think it's very important for them to have. So, So
based on your thesis, definitely reflects like your interest and passion for student advocacy and representation, and not only does your thesis do that, but also your entire time at UQ reflects that very well. Not only have you been great at academics because you've been the recipient of the Dean's Commendation for Academic Excellence. You're also a UQ Futures Leader. You were also a UQ International Student Ambassador, which is like, as a fellow UQ, I say hi.
Hi, fellow BISA. I'm not a BISA.
No, ISA.
ISA. Yeah. BISA and ISAs, we had this pizza session thing.
Yes.
Yeah.
You've also been a UQ Student Employability Center Ambassador. You also got awarded with the Employability Award with your graduation. And you also got a first class honors. That's so cool.
Oh, no, thank you.
They're such cool things, So, like, how was your experience? I don't want to put you on spot and ask you to explain 4 years on a podcast.
It's kind of hard,
But like, what was something that is most memorable to you that you will always cherish?
It's not really more of like I would say the achievements are great. It's like I'm very thankful. It's more of the people that I met here, the people and the things that I've learned here. It's like that character building process that I really value and treasure. So it's not so much about the outcomes, but more of like that journey, that process that I really treasure. Because if it wasn't for that, then I wouldn't be who I am today. Yeah, so I really felt that I grew a lot for the past 4 years, and especially my honours year. It was really challenging, and how research goes. It's very self-driven. Yeah, you have to motivate yourself.
Yeah.
So, and you have to keep in contact with your supervisor and
yeah.
be like on top of your work, and you don't really want to fall behind as well. So there's also, it's like the friendships you make here are so valuable. Like
Right.
the thing is, with international students, you make like friends from different cultures, right? And that's a great thing, because sometimes, of course, when your time of study is like over, naturally everybody will go back home or something, and
Yeah.
that's like the sad part.
Yeah.
But it's like you keep in contact, and next time you could visit them when you head over to
Yeah.
their country to visit, and like, keep in touch and everything. It's just the friendships I'm so thankful for, the people that I've met here. The teachers, the professors, like a select few have been very inspiring to me, very supportive, and my supervisor is one of them. I shall list his name here in case he's listening one day. Yeah, Levi Obijofor. So yeah, he's a like senior lecturer in the journalism field. So he has been very supportive, and it's like when you're doing something you're not familiar with for research, you need to have faith in yourself. And of course, sometimes you're not sure if that's enough. It's very important to believe in yourself. I can't stress that enough. But it's also important to have that support from someone as well who's more experienced.
Right.
So
Yeah.
when they trust in you and they believe in your skills, they know that, oh, you're hardworking, you can do this, you need to have faith in your direction and go with what you think is best. So it's very important. Yeah, and definitely my family. Like, I definitely wouldn't have been here if it wasn't for my family.
Also, like, you're not physically or geophysically close to your family, but they're such important factors, even though they are far away, because that they're like the support system. And also with the supervisor, like you mentioned, people sometimes underrate how important and how much of an impact a supervisor can have on you. Like, I think, like, you could have two totally extreme experiences with research, wholly based on your supervisor. Like, that's such a key integral part. And definitely, so if you had a good experience, that's obviously your supervisors has had like an important role to play there, and that's really nice. It's really important to find supervisors who believe in you, because that's really key.
Exactly. I remember before I signed up for my honors year, you had to sort of search for a supervisor on your own. Yeah. So I remember Nick Kara. So he's another like very renowned lecturer in our field of communications, and I remember asking him, and he was like, "It's important for you to find a supervisor who's like it fits you, like the best for you. Communicate well with your supervisor, because that's ultimately how you're going to succeed, like along the way, like, and eventually, So yeah, I think it all boils down to communication, like trust, and having open, honest communication, and having a good relationship. I suppose. Yeah, it's like all your factors to contribute to like a very fulfilling, honest research year.
Other thing that you mentioned is you mentioned how friends are also important. It's important to catch up and everything, which is also something that I've been told by a lot of your friends that you do really well. You always catch up with people, and you're really nice.
Oh, really? Is that what they say? Oh, I'm glad. Okay. It's kind of because it's more like a lot of people ask me who I hang out with, and I will usually say that I don't have a particularly like a fixed clique or a fixed group. I'm more of a floater, so I'm very flexible. Don't know if that's good or bad, but yeah, so then it's more like if I can get along well with someone and I'm really like interested in them and what I think about, I feel like we can click pretty well, our values, or like I want to learn more from them, so I usually like, proactively message them or something. Like, I really want to like catch up with you if you have time, grab a meal together or coffee. So yeah, I tend to do that quite a bit. So it's like even during my honors research year, I was really quite busy, and it's a very isolating journey, which isn't very healthy.
Yes.
Yeah, so sometimes I would like try my best to like message my friends and ask them how they're doing, and just to catch up. And I realized most of our conversations, I will usually be asking more about that person because I'm just so interested in them. And they'll just tell me so much about themselves, and I'll be like, oh, it's awesome. And I guess the moment they leave that conversation, I'll be like, actually, I didn't really ask a lot about Stacey. I've just been going on about myself. I'm like, oh, but it's fine because I really enjoy it.
Also, I should mention that we're completely like polar opposites in that regard, because I'm anything but a floater. Like, I just
really?
Yeah, I really like 2-3 close friends, and that's it. That's my life. I don't know why. I like people. No. I love talking to people. I like friends, but like I still like, at the end of the day, I'll always like, no matter what phase of life I'm in, I've always noticed that I've always had like just one core group.
Oh, no, it's good actually. Oh, I should have mentioned that. It's more like I am a floater when it comes to meeting lots of different people,
Yeah.
but I also do have like a small select group
Oh,
of
so
like
you're like
friends.
best of both worlds.
It's kind of hard to balance both. I think it's really comfortable and nice to have like
Yeah.
your own fixed group though.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
I do
yeah.
get a little bit envious sometimes.
Another thing that you mentioned was how
Yeah.
like the people you've met is out of your journey of the last 4 years,
Yeah.
doing your Bachelors of Communications. The people that you've met have impacted you in great lengths.
Yeah.
And I believe like as an international student, the people who you meet impact you majorly because so there's this theory about how like the five most closest people you interact
Yeah,
with,
I was
like,
about to mention that
Yeah.
telepathy. Yes.
so the five most,
Yes.
I don't know what number it was, but like
It's
the
five,
closest,
yeah.
the closest people that you have around you actually shape you.
Yeah.
However, as an international student, like back home, we have our friends, we've lived there for a long period of time. So there are
Yeah.
so many circles and so many friends and so many different people.
Yeah.
However, when we come here,
Yeah.
because the number of people who we really interact with properly are low, given that it's a new environment, you don't know as many people.
Yeah.
So if you reduce the number of friends that you have, then the friend population is concentrated. So the impact they would have on you is also very direct. Like if
Yeah.
if I was with five people,
Uh-huh.
their influence on me would be like 1/5, and all of that.
Yeah.
But if I was just with two people, then they would have half and half. I don't know if obviously I'm trying to involve maths into very complex
That's a good
social
point.
relationships. But I just feel that if you have like a lower number of friends or lower number of core friends, which
Yeah.
I would guess you would if you are an international student, because you're new here.
Yeah.
I just think that the impact is greater just because of that.
Oh, that's very true. Yeah, if you have like, if the number of your friends is like it's lesser than 5, I guess
Yeah.
they do have like a bigger
Higher
impact on your
say.
personality and
Yeah.
everything. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
true.
I'm just guessing, this could be
No,
wrong.
no, I think you're right though. It feels like it makes sense, according if we like do
It's
it, like,
intuitive, right?
mathematically. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it does. It makes sense. Oh, it never occurred to me what happens if you've got lesser than like 5 friends in your life and like who's gonna impact you. It's like,
Yeah.
oh, that's a good point. Wow.
I think we have a new thesis topic.
Thank you, Mehershad. Yeah, you go write this, and I love to read it.
No, we can co-author. We can write about this. Yeah.
Yes, we can. Yeah. Oh my gosh. Okay.
So another thing that I wanted to touch about, which you already mentioned, is that when you were focusing on your thesis, you were talking about the importance of having like a holistic example,
Yeah.
a holistic experience in Brisbane,
Yeah.
or the city that you're in as an international student.
Uh-huh.
So how has your experience been with Brisbane? Because you've been in so many different countries, you've visited so many cities. How was your experience with Brisbane?
It's like a roller coaster. It's like positive, and of
Yeah.
course there were times where it was like a little bit negative as
Yeah.
well, because you're adapting to a different culture, and
Yeah.
at times I think a lot of people in their first year, like in the first few weeks or first month or so, depending.
For me, it was first
on the
6
person.
months, so it's
Oh
okay.
really? You look how great you are now.
Yeah,
It's like
yeah.
yeah. But everybody's like rate of adaptability. It changes, it differs, so it varies. And I guess I remember because I'm an only child as well, so
Nice.
I'm like my parents' baby in a
Yeah,
sense.
yeah.
So it's kind of like, you wouldn't be around your parents for a very long time, and you're living away from them for quite a while. You won't get to see them as
Right,
often.
yeah.
So it was a little bit of a shock, a little bit worried as well, because I think I'm very close to my mom especially, and of course my dad as well, but you usually rely on your mom more
Right,
for the
right.
emotional
Yeah.
stuff, and like the support, and your dad's more of the practical stuff.
Yeah.
So I was a little bit worried because I was just like, I hope she'll be fine without me, because I'm like her only daughter, and she might find it could be a little bit lonely at home.
Yeah,
like,
it can be challenging
Yeah.
on both ends.
Yeah.
Also, what is the longest that you went without like visiting home or them visiting you?
Oh, it's probably this year. I didn't go back at all for this year because of like the intensity of honors.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it was probably just for this year. I didn't go back at all, and they just sort of came over here for graduation.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, but usually for breaks, for the past 3 years or so, I've gone back for a while during the breaks, but it was pretty short, like
During,
2
like, the
weeks
summer?
or so.
Yeah.
Yeah, summer, winter for
Okay,
here and
yeah.
there, but it wasn't like for the whole break
Yeah.
as well. So
But I do feel I really relate with especially today, is because today I woke up to my mom, and I'm a classic mama's boy. Like I love
so
my
sweet.
I love my parents a lot. I
That's
talk to
great.
them as much as I can. Like sometimes I'll talk to them each day of a week. Like
Uh-huh.
I'll just feel like it. So they know everything I'm doing, and I really like them. So today I woke up to like a GIF that my mom sent, and there's like a time difference, right?
Oh,
So
yes.
I will often wake up to a lot of messages because I would have gone to sleep during, like when I'm sleeping, everyone there is
Yes.
awake. So
Okay. What time is it back in India right now? Like,
so right now here is 3 o'clock.
Yeah, okay.
So back at home it'll be 10:30.
at night or
Morning.
Oh.
So it's like a 4.5 hour difference.
Okay.
So when it's like 12 o'clock there,
Oh.
it'll be 4:30 in the morning here, which means that if they text at night, like around 10 or 11, I'll be sleeping.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
So often I'll wake up to a lot of messages from like
Okay.
different people back home. And like today I woke up to a GIF of my mom sending me like a Pikachu GIF.
Pikachu?
Yeah. And it was like, I miss you.
Ah,
And I was like, what are you doing, Mom?
It's so sweet.
Yeah.
Oh, you sound like you come from a very loving, affectionate
Yeah,
family. That's
yeah.
very sweet. Yeah.
So
That's
it's,
great.
yeah, I definitely, and this is also summer that I haven't been
Oh.
home. So I definitely,
Yeah.
I can't, #relatable.
Yeah, definitely. Then you know how I feel.
Yeah.
Yeah, pretty much.
But it's definitely challenging, but it's also, I think it's the hope that keeps us all going, the hope of returning back home as more informative, more developed,
Yeah.
more skilled, more talented, and
Yeah.
more educated.
Yes,
I
definitely.
think that's what keeps me, at least me, going on.
Agreed.
Yeah.
No, I feel you completely as well. It's like as an international student, and your parents have invested a lot of like time, effort, and money into you,
Yeah.
and they hope that you will succeed as well.
Yeah.
Because they love you, so they're like spending
Yeah.
this amount on you, and it's a great thing. And you kind of want to. It sort of motivates you to work hard. Like know
Right.
you have to. It's
Right.
your responsibility to do well, and give back to your parents so that you can care for them and stuff. So I'm like, I think I told this to my mentor before sometime this year. So it's like because I'm in the HAS faculty, like humanities and social sciences.
yeah.
So we've got this mentoring session thing happening this year. They just started it, so it's great. And I remember I had like a one-on-one session with my mentor, and I was telling her that I can't wait to eventually, earn my own money like full time, and I can't wait to give my parents my very first paycheck. And she was like, "Oh, really?" I'm like, "Yeah." She was wondering like it was such a big deal, and I was like, "Oh, it's just sort of like a form of gratitude, I suppose."
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I think especially from like in Asian countries,
Yeah.
we're very like, we're more bound to our parents.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I think we're very
Yeah.
like close in the sense that it's a good thing and a bad thing, because like in other, like in Western or European countries, people are easy to like be more independent, but we're still bound to a family, and we have a lot of values there
That's very
that we
true.
stick to.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like the Australian westernized culture is more individualistic.
Yeah.
More independent.
And we are all like, especially in India, we're all about the family. That's
Exactly.
Like, it's also, I have to mention, it's not always a good thing. Like sometimes,
Is it? Mm-hmm.
because it also depends on people. Sometimes people might be aligned, their personalities might be aligned to someone who likes an individual life, in which case, not that great for them.
Yeah.
But I think overall for me, definitely, it's a very good thing.
That's right.
Yeah.
I think it's like our Asian culture is just very family oriented and like very collectivistic. We care a lot about our families, our siblings, like even extended families.
Extended family also, yeah. Everyone has everyone in my extended family, they all have a say on everything.
Right.
Which is sometimes complicated, but for most of it, it's very loving.
It is. Yeah, exactly.
And I also feel that the international student experience is characterized by like hard work, because like you mentioned that especially from Asian countries where we are so family oriented, there's a lot of expectations, and like you said, when you go to a different country, when your parents are so supportive of your tertiary education, there's obviously some kind of pressure. It can be good or bad. Sometimes for most of it, it's good because you want to do something, you want to make something for yourself. You're grateful for the opportunities that they have provided for you, so you want to kind of do justice to those opportunities.
Yeah.
So I always feel that meeting international students, I think we are characterized by hard work. More often than not, because we often come from disadvantaged situations, in the sense that it's a new culture. For most of us, it's a new language, or a language that we're not very comfortable in. It's new people, new type of education. So I feel that at least most of us, or the international students that I've met who inspire me, including you, we're really everyone's really hardworking, and that is what really defines us.
Yeah.
Because
That's true.
that triumphs that kind of triumphs all the other disadvantages that we have to balance. And I think that's really it's something that I'm really touched by. It's something
Yeah.
that really motivates me. That the
It
entire
is.
like when I see international students like you and the people that have been on the podcast do such cool things like you have done. I know it's not about the achievements. I know
Yeah.
that you value the journey more. But for me, I just feel really nice. I just feel really motivated myself.
I'm glad.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, it's very important. Like sometimes I also hope that, maybe by doing this or that, maybe if I'm, for example, talking to international students, and as an ISA, you sort of talk to people from different cultures a lot, and
Right,
parents will come in as well. So I
Yeah.
remember bringing a bunch of people from Singapore, like students, like their sons or daughters wanted to study in Singapore, and
Yeah.
the parents would come along and ask lots of questions, and I
Yeah.
would cater to that. So they were like asking me for advice, and I told them to really step outside your comfort zone when you come here, because I don't. You can definitely talk to people from your culture. Like it's very comfortable, and
Yeah.
of course, like please go ahead. Like talk to people from Singapore as well.
Yeah.
They are from your home country.
Yeah.
You will feel more at home. But I would say don't just like only stick to them as well. Like it's
Right.
important to be able to open yourself up
Yeah.
to people of different cultures, talk to them as well, and talk to the local Australians here, because you came all the way from Singapore. So it's best that you sort of talk to people of different cultures. It sort of defeats the purpose if
Right.
you keep on like only isolate yourself within
The same
your
group,
Singapore.
yeah.
The same group, exactly.
I think
So,
it's like to
yeah.
make the best of the most of the experience. If you
Yeah.
want to have like an enriching experience, it's
Yeah.
best, because that's something that I struggled with like in the first 6 months or
Yeah.
maybe even a year,
Uh-huh.
because I wasn't really out. I would like to say that it was also because I was really busy and I was like trying to
Masters is hard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
but so that's why I really neglected, like I just focused on the academic side, but I would also say that I do realize that I could have like stepped out of my comfort zone, and I think that
Yeah.
is something also that people do struggle with. So yeah, like if anyone's listening and if that is something that you're struggling with, then trust Stacey and trust me, because it's hard, it's definitely hard, but once you step
Yeah.
out of your comfort zone, it's really nice.
It's
So it's such a
amazing.
freeing experience.
It is.
Yeah.
It's like the most difficult thing for, I guess, everybody is to really be uncomfortable, like to step out of your comfort zone. It's a scary thing for sure,
Yeah.
especially if you're someone who hasn't really done this before as much.
Yes.
It's intimidating and you don't know what to expect. It's that
Yeah.
uncertainty.
You overthink, you think about what
Yeah.
people will think, you think about what you're doing. But
Uh-huh.
it's
That's
just like you just take a breath and you push yourself. Yeah.
Exactly. It's like try not to like overthink it as well. Like just go for it. Just
Yeah,
like
yeah.
be courageous and go with your
Yeah.
gut, I would say. So yeah. Oh, if there's one thing I could help improve, would be definitely to help international students mingle more with like the locals here, because a lot of them always tell me that they want to make friends with like the Australians
Right.
here, but they just don't know how to, and it's
Right.
like that cultural difference. Even for Singaporeans, maybe the language isn't that much of an issue,
Yeah.
but
But it's-
sometimes it's the culture.
Yeah.
They don't know how to talk to them. And I've also talked to like my Australian friends as well. I've got quite a few of them, and they told me, oh, we also want to make friends with international students, but
Right.
but they're in their own groups, and like that's
Yeah.
what international students tell me. Like the Australians are always in their own groups.
It's always
like two-way.
intimidating on
Yeah.
both the sides.
Yeah.
And I think the reason is because like the international community and the domestic local community,
Yeah.
they're so visibly different. Like that it can be hard.
Yeah.
Because they're so well defined spheres.
Yeah.
It can be hard for there to be like it's hard. It's hard for both of those circles to really collide because they're so well defined.
Yeah.
And I don't know, it's such a silly,
It
simple
is.
thing that I don't know how to fix though.
I know. I guess it's just like not to worry too much about it,
Yeah.
and just like be the first person to reach out to others. I
Yeah.
think that's fine. That's
Yeah.
always better. Like for me, it could be a personality thing as well. Like you know how they say introverts are a bit more quiet, right?
Yeah.
So it could be a little bit harder for them to like reach out to people, for like to strangers, especially
Yeah.
for the first time. But like for extroverts, it's more of like it's easier because they're more outspoken. They're more outgoing. It could be easier to communicate with people of a different culture and stuff like that. But I identify myself as an extroverted introvert, so it's a little bit like complicated. But ultimately, I think it's just to really be friends with someone of a different culture. I think you just have to be willing to reach out, be
Yeah,
willing to be
yeah.
the first to talk to someone, and be proactive. people are just worried
Yeah.
about. There's this fear of rejection, I guess. Like,
Yeah,
I
I
want to
think
be
so.
friends with you, but what if
Yeah.
you don't want to, and I'll
Yeah.
feel rejected? That kind
Yeah,
of
it's also
thing.
like
Yeah.
they're really like, especially I don't know. I mean, it's just human nature, but like everyone's really highly afraid of being embarrassed or, like you said, rejected.
Yeah.
But it's also it's interesting that you mentioned proactive, because I
Yeah.
think that might really be it. Like
Is that it?
that's all it needs. Yeah, just be proactive and just reach out.
Right.
And it's also, you mentioned introvert and extroverts, and
Yeah.
something that I've noticed is that no matter even if you were an introvert or an extrovert back home,
Yeah.
I think coming here, it might, in most cases, it's not necessarily the same. A lot of
Yeah.
extroverts back home, when they come here, they just tend to be more introverted.
Is that true?
I think so. At least the people who
Oh.
I've met
Okay.
and the people that I've spoken to, the outspoken, like, because it's a scary new atmosphere, right?
Yeah, it is.
And sometimes if you're an introvert back home, but if you feel really comfortable with the friends that you've met here, that might change.
Oh, it's that switch, right?
Yeah, so
That's
I mean, if you put like people into a different setting, they will react differently, right?
Oh, that's true. But do you identify yourself as an introvert and extrovert, Mehershad?
I think I'm an introvert, right?
Introvert?
I think so. I don't know.
I think you're like me, an extrovert and introvert.
Because I don't think I fall on like one end of the spectrum. It just depends on like who I'm talking to and where I'm at.
Yeah, that's true.
So if I'm like at work or like, I'm with friends, I'm an extrovert. But if I'm like in a larger group where I'm still learning, I'm still like, I'm not sure what, like, it's like a new setting.
Yeah.
Then I'll tend to be more on the shy side.
So it varies, right? Yeah.
But I'm also really shy. So yeah, mostly introvert. Yeah.
Ah, okay.
It's just, it's like not ideal for me to have a podcast if I'm shy.
That's
but,
not true.
I know.
You are so not shy. Okay.
I want to go. We've covered UK. We've covered your journey from Singapore and also in Australia and Brisbane. I also want to touch a bit on your personal side.
Okay.
You mentioned that you had gone for a church service today.
Yes.
So, and also our friends have also told me that you volunteer.
It's
Okay,
just
cool.
I tend to be more of a church member, but eventually I hope to serve next time.
But
Yeah.
that's really interesting because Christmas is here.
Yeah.
And the reason that I connected with that is because you went, when you said when you going to church today. Normally on the 24th, and normally during Christmas time I would visit the church. So I'm not Christian, but I went to a Jesuit school. So I'm also very like, because my mom and dad are from different religions. I just like all religions. I'm just like, I'm not very
That is
stringent
good.
here.
That is good.
So
yeah.
like on 24th, I would like, there's this very famous or like prominent church that we have in Mumbai that everyone goes to. It's full crowded, and it's not just Christians, it's like everyone from different religions will come.
Oh.
My mom took us when we were really small.
Okay.
And it's such a communal thing that one of the things that I miss today is not being in India, is because like every 24th I would go there at midnight for midnight mass. And throughout Christmas it's well lit and everyone's really happy, and I love going there. Like I said, it's not necessarily the religion, it's just the communal bonding that happens is so like overwhelming and so nice.
Yeah, it's a very joyous occasion.
Very,
Yeah, especially during the Christmas period. Like I remember, even back in Singapore, I attended Christmas services back then, and there's always a bunch of plays and shows happening.
Yeah.
Like there'll be people who are like acting.
Yeah.
It's a very lovely, joyous, and loving environment, I
Yeah,
suppose. Yeah. So now you've had a very great upbringing. Your parents are amazing.
My parents are amazing.
Yeah.
I should have been like, I often like, I don't think like I should get a lot of like I think that's also something you relate to, is that when you achieve something, it's hardly you, and it's not hardly you, but it's not just you.
Yeah.
It's so many other factors.
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I'm always like a firm believer of saying the success that you've gained and achieved. Definitely, it's not just your own strength. Like it's like a number of factors: your family, your friends, people who support you, your teachers, and everything. So. And yeah, like at least to me, it's also God's grace as well. So yeah, exactly. It's a lot of things. You can't just credit it to your own strength alone.
And from a scientific side, it is true, because like if you see the permutations, like it's hard to explain, but there are so like whatever you get, right? Because there are so many variables that are attached to it.
Yeah.
Though without those variables, that wouldn't be possible. And out of all those 100 or 1,000 variables,
Yeah.
you are only one of those variables. So you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, your skill is one variable,
Yes.
but that's not the only variable.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Ooh, intellectual. Yeah.
I was in the lab earlier, so I'm just really...
Oh, good. Like, just shoot it out now. Yeah.
I just feel really scientific.
Oh, that's great. No, thank you for sharing that. It's a pretty good analogy. I feel so smart hearing that. I should just use that next time.
I'm thinking we should write that thesis together.
I know, we should, definitely.
You're like your side of communication and understanding of social
Yeah, you do all the sciencey parts.
Yeah, I do like the maths. So one of the last things that I want to touch about
Sure.
is hip-hop.
Oh.
Because you mentioned you love hip-hop, and I was shocked. Not shocked, I was very pleasantly surprised actually, because I love hip-hop.
Oh, you do?
But I've never really spoken to someone about hip-hop. I don't know why.
I don't know why either. I haven't really done that as well. Yeah.
So like, okay, so what do you love? What songs? What artists do you love? What songs do you love?
So, yeah, like, people usually get surprised by my music taste. Yeah, so I was very into, I'm still very into like rap and like, I'm a fan of Eminem. Like, ooh, okay, like, no big surprise. Yeah, Eminem and Nicki Minaj, Iggy Azalea. So like, I always thought rap artists were very unique because it's like the meaning behind their raps. It was really cool. And swag, stylish confidence, snapbacks. I'm very into street fashion as well. So it's like, it's very cool because especially when like girls are very into hip-hop. I feel like you know K-pop, right?
I know K-pop.
Yes. So like there's a lot of like swaggy girls in K-pop, at least for like girl crush. I'll name one group, like Blackpink. I'm a huge fan of Blackpink, and they have this girl crush vibe, which is very different from your other K-pop groups, which are all very girly and very cutesy. Yeah. So I'm more of into those like hip-hoppy, tough image types of girls because they're very inspiring. It's like it's kind of like, because women nowadays, they're supposed to look feminine and soft.
Oh yeah,
like, you know, it's always this.
That's why it's amazing, because we're having this moment that is also like facilitated by the rappers these days.
Yes.
I would say even Cardi B, right?
Yes.
She's so outspoken, she's so empowering.
Yeah.
But it's really nice because our reasons for liking hip hop or loving hip hop are very similar.
Yeah.
I love hip hop and I love rap. Because I'm amazed by the ability of just words to inspire, empower, and like sometimes obliterate people.
Exactly.
Like words have so much, like, just because what rappers are doing, apart from all the like, okay, sure, they do like a lot of bling stuff and a lot of like cool stuff.
Yeah, there's those too. Yeah.
On the very base of it, at the base of rapping and hip hop are just words. And I like to write.
Yeah.
So I'm constantly amazed by the ability and the creativity of people to use words to like change things on a global basis. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly. Yeah.
And I really love because one of my favorite artists is this Indian rapper.
Oh.
And one of the reasons I love her is because like
Is it her? Oh, okay.
And I'm a guy, but her rap, like I feel like an empowered woman. Like I'm like I feel so empowered. It's she's called Hardcore.
Oh.
So Kaur is actually it's an Indian it's a Punjabi surname. It's a Kaur.
Kaur. Ooh.
Yeah, but she's actually using her rap name is Hardcore as like
so cool.
hardcore, like
catchy.
Yeah.
Okay.
And she raps and she's amazing, and I really love like I might be biased, but I love like Indian female rappers because especially like you said, like there's a lot of like oppression that goes around, and it's very important and it's really inspiring when there are female rappers that have such strong words that kind of have this moment or kind of like stimulate this moment against oppression. And Hardcore does that, and one of her lyrics that I really like. Okay. And this is silly, but I really like it.
What was it? Okay.
So have you seen the movie Slumdog Millionaire?
Yes, I love it. It's one of my favorite movies.
Oh, wow, yeah.
Yeah.
So you know how it was like kind of based in India and it's
Uh-huh.
about India kind of. So she has this lyric where she's like, "I'm not a slumdog, I'm a millionaire."
Woo. Powerful.
It's so simple though, but it's so powerful.
No, it's like the way she delivers it is probably like
Yeah. She's like her name says, she's very hardcore.
Oh my gosh!
Yeah,
I have to listen to some of her songs. Please send me.
No, please, I would love that because like. Yeah, I actually want to know what you think about her because I think she's really nice.
Yeah, no, we need more female rappers. Like nowadays, there's not many of them. Yeah, not a lot of good ones as well.
Yeah, so. And a lot of it's really hard. It seems like the industry is it's not very facilitative for female rappers
Yeah.
to get the same opportunities.
Yeah, it's more male dominated as
Right.
well. Yeah.
Which is why I really like. I might not necessarily love Cardi B, or I might
Yeah.
not necessarily resonate with everything she says.
Yeah.
But I just like the fact that she's outspoken and she's empowering people, and that's enough.
That's why.
That's good enough for me to love someone.
Exactly,
Yeah.
you know, it's just, I find it so empowering when I see women who are strong and tough and they're straightforward, they're not afraid to do what they want, and they're not pressured by society to appear like, you know, soft or like feminine or like, you know.
Right. They
It's
go like
just-
strong.
Exactly,
Yeah.
you know, it's very inspiring and
Yeah.
empowering when you see women like that.
Yeah.
So, yeah, so hip hop has this very strong vibe, which I really like, and it's like just powerful, I suppose.
Yeah.
So, it gives you that confidence as well. So, yeah, it's
Even
just.
Ariana
it's really
Grande
cool.
is.
Yeah.
She's so powerful.
I love Ariana especially. Oh, yes.
Like, I think
Absolutely. Yeah.
I was pretty late to the party, but a week back I heard her song called No Tears Left to Cry.
Oh,
Something like
yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I started listening, and the first thought, like, I was so blown away by the song because, like, at first it sounds like really soft and really like a.
Yeah.
It sounds like what people might think like a female singer should sing. You know, it's like such a
Yeah.
pop start to it.
Yeah.
And then it gets faster, and she's like she's talking about picking it up, and I'm like, wow, this is so inspiring.
Oh, my.
I
Yeah.
really like it.
Her songs are like. Her vocals are really good. So she is
Yeah.
like a whistle register. She can sing many like
Yeah,
ranges and
yeah.
all that.
So catchy too.
Yeah. So she's like one of our most inspiring female artists like
Yeah,
today.
yeah.
Yeah, she's worked very hard for it as well.
Yeah,
So,
and I mean, she's faced a lot of, like,
Yeah.
2018 was not a nice year for
It's
her.
not, like for her personal life,
Yeah,
she said it as
yeah,
well.
yeah.
Yeah, so
But she's doing well, she's killing it.
she's killing it. Yeah, so we need more inspiring women out there. So it's very important as well. So yeah.
And I'm definitely going to, like, push a lot of hardcore on
Okay,
you. Yeah,
I can't wait to hear it. Yeah.
Because even though, and she raps, a lot of her lyrics are in English actually.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, so you definitely, like, completely understand exactly what she's saying.
That'll be great. Yeah.
Yeah.
Please share your
Yeah,
playlist.
yes.
Oh yeah, so like I'm so glad that we have this like similar interest in hip hop.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
cool. Yeah, so I guess mostly for hobbies wise, if like you know, students we need to de-stress. So I guess just for me, I'm just very into like dance as well. Yeah, like actually dance too. Like
Yeah.
back in 2015, I helped choreograph the hip hop section for like this dance competition from my college.
That's nice.
Yeah, so that was like, freshman year, you sort of just do whatever you want. So,
Yeah.
then just thought, why not like step out of my comfort zone? And it was kind of scary because I had to like lead a team, like a lot of people, and teach them
Right.
like a choreography.
Right.
And it was like people of different cultures too, and they were Australians as well, and they were really tall. I'm like kind of short too, so it's like they're listening to me and everything. So yeah, it was really fun, and the most important thing is about dance is a form of self-expression. So
Right.
it's to me it's very enjoyable, and yeah, so I also really like to draw too, like in my free
Yeah.
time. So yeah,
It's really nice that, like you said, you're very academically inclined, but you also have these events, these creative events where you can, take a break, express, be creatively satisfied.
yeah,
That's really nice.
no, it's very important. It's
Yeah,
like
yeah.
academics are very important, but your own personal development is also very important
Yeah.
as well. Like your talents and hobbies. I don't think you should get rid of them no matter how
No,
busy
no,
you
yeah.
are. Just like try and make some time to do what you want. Yeah, no, it's very nice. Yeah.
So yeah, that's it was really nice to talk to you.
Thank you.
There's so much I feel inspired. I feel really there's so much that we spoke about, and there's so much that I learned today, and I hope the people also gathered or had something new to learn today.
No.
And if not, they maybe they're inspired by your story.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
Like, I hope so too. Like, you're really inspiring as well. Thank you so much for having me. I'm really enjoying this conversation as well.
I enjoyed it
Yeah.
a lot too. This is really nice.
Yeah.
Is there anything else that you might want to say?
I guess to all the students out there, like future students, I suppose, the future international students, I hope that you will be bold and that you will be courageous
Yeah.
in stepping outside your comfort zone, be it like in academics or like in leadership or whatever volunteering roles or like in your internships. I hope that you will just follow your gut instinct, and that I hope that you won't be limited by your own limitations. Like, don't be restricted by your own limitations. You are your worst critic. It's very cliche, but it's very true.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah.
Yeah, and I hope that you won't listen to what other people might say. Like, there's a lot of noise and a lot of negativity outside. And I just want you to, I really urge you to block it all out and just follow your own inner voice, follow your gut instinct. So just, follow your heart, do what you want so you can live your life with no regrets. Yeah. Yeah.
Perfect.
That's all.
That's really nice. Yeah. Thanks so much, Stacey, for being on the podcast. Thanks so much.
No, thanks so much for having me. Yeah.
And thanks everyone for listening. We had a lot of fun. This was lovely. I hope it was good for you too. And if you like this kind of sort of stuff, then feel free to like and subscribe. I've recently started to
No, that's
someone
good.
someone told me like, why don't you ask people to subscribe? And I'm like, I thought it was pretty intuitive. I thought people will just subscribe if they want. But apparently I have to tell people. So like
Yes, you do.
yeah, if you like it, subscribe. If
Yeah.
not, it's okay.
Be sure to check out Mehershad's other podcasts. They're really, really good. Check them out. Yeah.
Thanks so much. I'll see you all next time.
Are you gonna make it happen today? Or will you just settle for another delay? Come on, you gotta make it happen now. Come on, you gotta make it happen now. Said, are you gonna wait and sit on your hands? Or will you go and start making out a list of demands? Cause you can make it happen, so choose a bit your passion to move. But start attacking, don't lose out on the action. Are you gonna